Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 63. I am Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy. And as always, I've got my co-host, the better half of the show, Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. Hey, Hans, what's going on?
Hey, good evening, Jason. How are you doing?
Man, I am doing good. Cannot complain. Everything is good here in deep East Texas, Nacogdoches County, Texas, over here by Louisiana. It's just hot and humid.
Yeah. Well, so last weekend I had my youngest daughter. We were out, and I'll just say we had to replace a pig pipe that you murdered the last time that you came down to hunt with me. So
folks,
I had her.
We're not going to rehash this, but his holes were too small, and I was just making the holes a little bit bigger so the corn would come out better. And I used a 6.5 Grendel doing it, and he got all upset about it. But
he blew out the whole side of it. So I had her out there. She's a pro, man. She knows how to do it. Like, she's telling me how to do it out there, drilling the holes, gluing it together. And man, it's fun for her. So to get a chance to go out there and do that, and her be excited about it is one thing. Because my oldest one now, all she wants to do is be on her iPod and playing stuff and talking to her friends and all this stuff. So she's kind of gotten where Dad isn't as cool as he used to be. But the younger one, she's all about it right now. So I can't complain too much.
Well, hey, if she wants to build me a pig pipe, she can. I had one wash away in a flood. I lost it, so I need to get her down here and help me build another one.
The first thing she's going to ask is how much she gets paid. So you better be prepared.
Oh, whoa, golly!
She don't do nothing for free, man. You gotta pay her. But
pay her.
Well, luckily, I got this one done for free because this was basically just a redo from the one that you blew out last time you were down here. But
I somehow feel like this story is going to end with me having to pay for this, but I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Or at least me pay her, maybe.
We'll send you the bill for the supplies, but no big deal. But I would tell you, man, I've been out hog hunting every night. What's weird is been shooting quite a few coyotes lately. The hogs have slowed down just a little bit. It's kind of a weird time of year right now with, hot and humid at night. They're coming out at weird, odd times. Been seeing some, but usually it's just one at a time. But I tell you what, the grass is still so tall down here. I know, down there where you're at's a problem too. But being able to get in there and cut the grass has been so wet. But you basically have to be about 8 foot tall to be able to see anything over this grass to shoot any hogs, and they sneak right through it. Can't even see them.
Yeah, I don't have quite that right now. My pasture's grazed down pretty good, so it's okay. We've got cattle on it, but I'm just not seeing that many hogs. And what I am seeing on my cellular cameras are super, I'd say late at night. I guess it's early in the morning, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning, just one or two passing through. And what I have noticed, I've got a big creek that runs all the way through my property and just snakes through it. And I was down there riding my Ranger down beside it on Saturday, looking in there, and it is all rooted up. That gravel and mud down in there. I know those hogs are getting down in there where it's wet. They're wallering, rooting around, and I know it's got to be cooler for them down there. But I know a lot of nights, and I know you have the same thing, Hans, but I've got an indoor-outdoor thermometer there under my porch, and I can look at it inside. And it'll be midnight, 1 a.m., and it's close to 80 degrees and over 80% humidity, and it's just miserable. I mean, it's just nasty, dripping wet out there, and those hogs don't like it any more than we do, I don't think.
Yep. Well, another piece of good news, we had Cody on from Diamondback Firearms, and I've got word that my brand new AR-10 .308 caliber pistol is about to ship. And man, I am excited about that thing coming in. I'm ready to shoot it, ready to get out. You and I've talked about this a lot. I've been using the 65 Creedmoor for a long time. It's been a great rifle. I love shooting it. One of my favorite rounds now. But I'm excited about getting back to a 308.
Now, what's the barrel length on that pistol going to be?
13 and a half inches. It's a bulldog. It's going to be a bulldog. It's going to be It's going to kick like a mule. It's going to be loud probably until I put that
I
suppressor on.
imagine that I imagine your neighbors a mile down the road are going to be hoping the ATF hurries up on getting your cans to you because
Yeah,
that thing will wake the dead. I bet.
my wife's going to hate me pretty soon. No more firing from the back porch, I'm soon. But no, excited about that thing. So y'all stay tuned. There's going to be some talk about that. Check out the Hans ETX YouTube channel for a bunch of hog kills, coyote kills for that thing, because that's going to be the new go-to rifle now. And yeah, it's going to be a hoss. There's no doubt about it. But hey, Jason, I wanted to touch on one thing because we've had some people still calling in about the site mark rates. Had another gentleman call yesterday, and he was shocked at how many have been sold and how long they're expected to wait to come in. So he was okay with it, but he was just shocked how many have been sold.
Yeah,
so
it's
far.
it is crazy. Our back order list is pretty crazy, and most dealers that are taking back orders probably are. So here's the latest. This is, I don't know the date, July whatever, middle of the month, July 16th, 17th, whatever it is in this week. And so I want to give that date because somebody listening to this may listen to it in a few weeks and be confused. But talked to SiteMark last week, and they said that there is a shipment of the Wraiths coming in. It should be, if all goes well, I should be landed in the U.S. by the end of this month, maybe the last week or two of the month. Normally those Wraiths are coming over from the factory via sea in a container, so it takes a long time. There was a delay in the production. A couple weeks they were working on a few things, so they actually are air shipping these over. So they're going to get here in the original estimated date of July. Don't know when they're going to, when we're going to get them, if it's going to still be in July or if it's going to be, the first week or so of August. But they are coming in pretty much, what we had originally said in July. It should be within a week or so of that. The units will come in. They're going to take a set number of them. They'll do their quality control checks, put them on recoil machines, make sure everything meets their specs. And if they do, they're going to start shipping them to the dealers. And so, again, not going to say anything for sure on the dates, but I would say that, maybe the last week of this month, maybe the first week of August, just depending on, kind of how everything goes when they get here. And again, the quality control checks and all that. So it's the good news is they're a couple of weeks out, 2 or 3 weeks, should not be long. I know there's a lot of people waiting. That's going to be one shipment. Then there will be another shipment that should be coming about a month behind that. We're expecting that sometime in August, and there will be monthly shipments from here on out, barring some unforeseen circumstances. So July is the first of the monthly shipments. July, August, September, October, they're going to be rolling in, and inventory is going to get a lot better. I would imagine that most dealers, even ourselves who are very, very far back ordered, by the time we get to that September shipment, we should be, getting much closer to being caught up, and if not having units, maybe even on the shelf, who knows? So that's the good news. They're coming, and it's like you said, if you're on the list and you've been waiting, depending on when you got in and whose list you're on and all that, you may be getting one soon, but they're going to keep rolling in, and they're going to be full steam ahead for the fall, which is great news.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about getting my hands back on a Wraith. I had one for a long time, and a demo unit. Had a lot of fun with it, and I'm excited about getting out and doing some day hunts, recording with it, that kind of stuff. And
me too. I'm more excited this fall when it cools off, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't disagree with you there.
No. Well, folks, we're going to get on in. We've got a good topic today, and I just tell you, this is going to be, it's a really interesting topic. There's a lot to get into, and I think it's going to be interesting because Hans and I started kind of hashing some of this out between ourselves. This is a question that is not easy to answer, and there's differing opinions. And so the question that we get from customers and listeners all the time is, is 640 or high resolution thermal scopes, are they worth the money? Are they worth it? Do I need to buy a 640 scope, or am I okay just buying a 320 or a 384? I'm going to call those scopes for this discussion. 640 is going to be high resolution, which that is currently the highest resolution thermal core you can get in a consumer thermal scope, 640. Hopefully one day we'll be having this discussion and saying, is 1024 worth it? that may be down the road. But right now, right. 640 is high resolution. Anything in the 320 by 240, 320 by 256, 384 by 288, any of those three numbers on the wide side, we're going to call that standard resolution. Okay, I'm not going to call it low resolution, because there are some lower resolution optics out there. They're not anything we would ever recommend for hunters. So the 300 range, again, standard 640s highs. And is it worth it? And you know, Hans and I are going to go back and forth. To be honest, I don't even know if we're going to agree. We started hashing some of this out, and we're like, there's a lot to talk about. We better just get on the show, because I don't know what he's going to say.
I'm not going to say it was a disagreement or even an argument, but it was like two lawyers in a courtroom trying to plead their case.
There's a lot to this.
It is. That is not an easy question. I think I will say this. If you go up to somebody that has been using thermal for a long time, and you ask them, is 640 resolution worth the money? And the first thing out of their mouth is yes. I don't want to say I question that answer. I think there's things that you need to learn about the person that's asking before you can decide if that is the correct option for them.
We both agree there.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, good.
And I would say one more thing too, though. There is a lot of people that use 640 that may have always used 640 or have used it for a long time, or maybe they just got one last week. I think there's a lot of people in our industry who are, maybe they're known like Hans is. They've got a YouTube presence, a social media presence. People know who they are. They're using 640 scopes just like Hans is. Maybe they're like me and they're in sales. They own a business. There's a lot of people that if you say, hey, is 640 worth it? And they will snap insta answer, yes. Yeah. And they won't ask any of those questions. Right. And that's because, one, maybe they just want to sell you a scope, or two, maybe it's just because they like it, and they really do. And to them, it's worth it. And so they not necessarily be lying. To them, it's worth it. This is where Hans and I really agree. There's a lot to get into, right, to me, for each individual user, your personality, right, your budget, your hunting conditions, your wants, your needs, your desires, all those things before I can answer that question.
Right. So one thing that I think is surprising to a lot of people, and it's worth mentioning and very important when you're talking about resolution, is the fact when a lot of people call in and they're asking about different thermal optics and magnifications and resolution, a lot of them are very surprised to learn and to find out that every time you magnify an image on a thermal scope, it cuts the resolution in half. I think first and foremost, if you didn't know that, it's very, very important to know, but that's an important factor and indicator as far as what direction to go.
Hans just brought up a huge thing. And so I want to give a little explanation on it without just getting way deep into it. But if you need more info, you can reach out to us, give us a call. But this is the basic way that works. Let's compare, just real quick, let's compare two scopes that are a real world example. Let's take the Thermion XP50. That is a 2-power scope. And it is at 640 by 480 pixels. That's the resolution. All right. Then we take the Thermion XM38. It's 320 by 240 pixels, and it's 4-power. All right. So stick with me. The misconception that a lot of people have is, I got a high-resolution scope. I can just zoom right in. Well, when you take your XP50 Thermion and you zoom in, just double it. Double the 2-power to 4-power. You cut your resolution in half. And that's not just the Thermion. that's the way digital zoom works on any digital optic, but we're talking thermal today. So you take and double the magnification, you cut your resolution in half. So in our example here, the XP50 Thermion goes from 2 power to 4 power. You go from 640 to 320 by 240. So what do you have? You now have essentially, effectively, an XM38, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Exactly.
And I think that's why, and I don't want to get too far ahead of you, but when you have people that are coming in and calling in and they're looking at a specific brand, let's just say the any Pulsar Trail, the XQ models,
Sure.
or versus the XP, people that are a lot of coyote hunters, they call us and they know what they want. They want the XQ50 because in the trail models that has the highest base magnification. 384 resolution, the highest base magnification. So they are looking for something that they, since they're taking 150 yard shots or 200 yard shots regularly, they want to be at 2.7 power base magnification. They want to be at the highest resolution number that they can be at, which is the 384, because they know that when they zoom in, it cuts it in half. So, when you have people or when you're talking to people and you're suggesting scopes, one of the first questions that Jason, that you and I ask is, what is going to be your average shooting distance? And that reason, that and a couple other questions, but it helps us determine in what direction the consumer is wanting, what's going to fit them the most with their hunting style.
That is absolutely right. And there's a lot of people that will tell me, I can't shoot at 2 power. I can't do it. I had a guy tell me today, he said, I've gone out with my daytime scope and I've looked at 3 power and, I think I'll be comfortable with that. I have other guys that say, there's no way. I've got a 4 to 14 on my daytime, it's a Vortex and I've got that thing cranked up to 10 all the time. You're never going to convince me to shoot at 1.5 power or 2.5. I've got to have, 3, 4, 5 power. And that's fine. I mean, to each their own. But that's an important place to start because a lot of these high resolution scopes are lower magnification, and that's a whole other kit and caboodle of why that is. It doesn't matter. It really, it's the way that it is right now. So, yeah, base magnification is really the number one thing, or one of the number one things you've got to decide. And so, I guess what Hans and I are trying to say here is you can't buy a high resolution scope, zoom it up immediately because it didn't have enough magnification and go, yep, 640 was worth it. Well, it wasn't worth it because you're not using 640. You're using 320.
Yeah. And essentially is do you want to spend money on the resolution, the 640 resolution, when the majority of the time you're going to have it magnified up higher. So, if you turn your scope on and right away magnify it to the next level, if it's an XP50 trail, you're at 1.6, you double it, you're at 3.2. If you're at 3.2, the majority of the time, well, unfortunately you spent money on resolution that you're not necessarily using. And the benefit of that now,
using. That's right.
So, with that being considered and with some other things being considered, you can see how just Jason and I asking this question of each other, we kind of get some different answers. But just beginning on the topic, we want to make sure to understand what some of when you are looking for a thermal optic, some of the questions that you need to be prepared to ask if you're calling Jason or I, or if you're calling somebody else in the business. Important to know, what's your hunting style, basically your average shot that you're taking, distance, what are you hunting for, coyotes or hogs? Because, again, that's different because, a lot of times you're hunting coyotes and it's 1 or 2 at a time. Sometimes when you're hunting hogs, it's a pack of 30, and you need that wider field of view. I will say one thing though, Pulsar has definitely helped with their picture-in-picture. That's something that you and I didn't talk about previously. But the picture-in-picture with the XP50 Trail does help get if you can use that. Some people they can't use the picture in picture. It's not a big enough view for them. But I use that quite a bit and taking longer shots, and it's been pretty
Sure.
effective. But that's a way to cheat a little bit with still getting that 640 and being able to cheat on zooming in the shot.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that what it comes down to is another big thing is what's your budget? I mean, if your budget's $3,500, which is nothing wrong with, that's the average thermal scope.
Hmm.
I mean, that range, that's what the average guy is spending in there. It's a great scopes that you more options than ever before in that range. But if it is, then 640 is probably not for you, and that's perfectly fine. I don't mean that to sound as any kind of an insult. It just is what it is. I never want to encourage somebody to go spend another $1,500 that they don't want to spend or don't need to spend or don't have or whatever. They just maybe don't, maybe they got it, they just don't want to. That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't. You need to decide what your budget is, and I had kind of jokingly tell people this, but I mean it. I say decide what your budget is, and you can always spend less, but don't go over that, and have a budget that when you buy that scope, you're going to be happy, you're going to sleep good that night, and you're going to say, man, this is the amount of money I want to spend. I said, I don't want your budget that you're going to stay up late at night and have buyer's remorse and not sleep and your wife's going to shoot you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, don't spend that. So the point is though, when you decide what that budget is, if it doesn't really reach up there to where the 640 scopes are, then fine, you've solved that problem, and you don't have to worry about it. So I
Well,
think
yeah.
that's
Then
another key thing is it worth it? Well, it doesn't matter if you're not in the market for a $100,000 pickup truck. Don't go look at $100,000 pickup trucks. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not in the market for one, so you know,
Oh, come on. Now, so the worst thing that you can do in speaking with people, and the worst thing that you can do is buy something that you outgrow in 6 months. And when I say outgrow, I
correct.
mean you get something and you like it a lot, but in the back of your mind, you thought, man, I should have just bit the bullet and got the nicer 640 resolution
Sure.
scope. I've got a buddy that I hunt with, a good friend of mine, bought a Pulsar Trail XQ38 and absolutely loves it. Kills a bunch of hogs. Him and I go out and hunt it quite a bit. It's a 384 resolution scope. He loves it. However, he said if I had to do it all over again, and this a 640 resolution scope is in his budget. He said if I had it to do all over again, I would have just gone ahead and got the 640, Trail XP50, and that was a small regret. Like I said, he loves his scope, but a small regret of his, and he's outgrown it. And the thing was, and what happens sometimes is people don't realize. Some people get very, I don't want to say addicted, but they really get into thermal hog and coyote hunting a lot more than they thought that they would, and they find themselves using it a lot more than they thought they were going to do. So my buddy bought it. He knew he was going to use it, but he didn't know he was going to use it several nights a week. So he's
Well,
like,
let me ask a question about that though. I think that's a great example, but I would ask this: would he still say that if he wasn't hunting with you or somebody else who had a 640? Meaning he's been exposed to it. So
you
I
know,
always say, don't look through a 640 scope if you don't want
yeah,
to buy
yeah,
one.
don't
Don't
go
go
hunt with
sit in the
me.
pickup
Yeah.
truck or in the seat of that pickup truck that's $80,000 with those nice seats unless you want to buy it. Don't tease
Yeah.
yourself. Do you think he would say that if he was hunting by himself and he'd never looked through one? Would he even know what he was missing?
Honestly, I don't think that he would know what he's missing because
Sure.
you can see 640 scopes on the internet on YouTube. Really doesn't do it justice at all. I mean, doesn't
Right. I
compare
agree.
at all when you're out in the field. So if he didn't, if he wasn't looking at my XP50 Trail, if he wasn't looking through a Reap IR when I've got it, if he wasn't looking through a Halo LR when I've got it, I mean, I'm rolling through some really nice optics, and he gets to look through all of them,
Sure.
before most everybody else in the country gets to look through it because him and I hunt together. So yeah, I think you're onto something. He would probably, not felt like that he needed or even wanted it if he wasn't exposed to it as much as he is.
You don't know
And,
what you don't know.
and he's looking through he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And, he's, him and I are in the ride together, and he's using my Helion XP, 38 and spotting with that. So, he's getting to see this 640 resolution all the time. And then he's jumping back on his XQ38 trail, which he's completely happy with, but he's like, man, you can see a big difference in the quality of the
Okay,
picture.
so you just brought up something great here. And I know what your answer is going to be. I think anybody that listens to either one of us knows, but I've got to ask it because I know people are listening to this that's never heard us before.
No, you can't ask me questions that aren't in the script notes. I refuse.
Oh, no.
No impromptu
right,
questions,
sorry.
man.
We don't even have a script. Okay, so I'm Joe Schmo customer, and I come to you and I say, hey, Hans, I've got $5,000-$6,000 that I want to spend. Maybe not all today, but I can, and I want to buy a thermal scope. Should I buy a 640 scope? And oh, by the way, I have no handheld thermal scanner. Would you tell me split that budget up and buy a standard resolution and a thermal scanner handheld, or would you say just dump all your money in one scope? And I know the answer.
Yeah, you probably do. You're gonna love life if you have a scanner, a thermal monocular. It is almost impossible to do what we do, hunting hogs, hunting coyotes, and hold up your rifle or scan and swivel back and forth with, on a tripod, or sitting in a side-by-side or a mule or something, scanning with a rifle. And it's almost impossible to do it for several hours a night.
And I know there's a lot of guys that do it. You can take your scope off and on, and there's going to be guys listening to this go, we do that all night, and I'm sure you can, but it is a pain compared to once you own a handheld. I mean, I think that's a whole nother question of, taking your scope off versus owning a handheld. I think that's way more important than the 640 is it worth it discussion, because that's
I can't see at night, and I can't get my scope back on my rifle. No, I can barely see my hand in front of me most of the time. But you can't do it. It's easy. But the short answer is, I would definitely break up that budget. I would get a thermal monocular. Adding a thermal monocular to your lineup of night vision scopes, thermal scopes, it will help you kill more hogs and coyotes, no doubt about it.
No question.
All right,
so all right, I'm everything you say makes me think of another question to ask, but
go for it.
So what I would say there is, and guys, we're not trying to change the subject here. We're talking this out from not just the technicalities of looking at resolution. We're talking about it from a practical, real world use of, I've got X number of dollars of, to spend on this. How do I spend them? And Hans knows this because he takes these phone calls, he reads emails and gets the stuff. It's just like I do. And how many guys buy the thermal scope? They go all in, they buy the best thing that they can afford, that they're willing to spend, and in 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, they're calling us back going, I should have bought less of a scope. I should have saved more money. I should have done something because now I need a handheld. I mean, it's a big percentage of people that call back. And you don't, again, it's kind of, I said, you don't know what you don't know until you get out there and you realize, how valuable a handheld is. And this isn't a discussion on handhelds, but I just want to say we get that a bunch. So,
I think the big question, and I think the thing, and I'm going to pose this to you because we get it a lot, and at the end of the day, this really is all that matters, and that is a 640 scope. If you have a 640 scope, are you going to kill more hogs, more coyotes? What's your answer to that, Jason?
Right now, I could answer this in such a way that I could be laughed out of the thermal industry completely.
That's why I asked you.
The late night vision show, this would be our last episode. It would be, there's so many guys that have so much more clout than me that would probably egg my house, throw toilet paper through the trees and laugh me out. But I'm going to make a very, very strong statement that I shouldn't make, not publicly. I will say this. Hans and I do have access, thankfully, through my business to use some of the nicest scopes out there. We are blessed to do that, and so we've had that access, and at the same time, we use the budget scopes as well, and we've killed a lot of hogs with those, and being very fair, being very practical and realistic. I believe if we take a scope, say, let's just name some just average scopes. I mean, really good scopes, but like the FLIR PTS 536, the Trail, XQ38, XQ50, the Thermion XM38. Okay, so these really good scopes in this $3,000 range. Even back to the Apexes, they were super $2,500, $2,800 scopes, Pulsar Apexes. Any of these scopes. If you will take one of those scopes, or I'll take it, I'll take that scope, and you take a high-end 640 high-resolution scope. I don't care if it's an XP50, I don't care if it's a Trijicon, an Envision, beautiful scopes. But all we care about is killing animals. And if we're going to do it at, say, 175, 200 yards and less, that's the conditions we're going to be hunting in. We're not looking across fields, in North Dakota a mile long. We're going to be hunting in a couple hundred yards or less conditions. I will say this. I will kill every single animal with one of those good, standard resolution scopes that you'll kill with the creme de la creme $6,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 scopes. I'll do it now, and that's not bragging on my ability. I think you could do it. We could switch it out. Now there does become benefits when we start talking about wanting to maybe ID out there at those crazy ranges of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 900 yards. Some of these scopes are capable of that. I mean, some of these Envisions and Trijicons. I mean, you can get ridiculous out there with your IDing ability, and that can keep you from having to walk, a quarter mile out there to go, that's a cow, that's a deer laying down. Deer. I mean, so there is a value to 640 there, because that higher resolution, double the pixels, will a lot of times let you ID further out there. That is a real value. But when we talk about killing more animals at closest ranges, I'm going to say no. Is it, you're not, I'm going to say, is it not worth it? I'm going to say, will you kill more? No. Now, again, my caveat for all the people listening to this that go, this guy's off his rocker, I'm not saying it doesn't become valuable when that coyote sticks its head out at 500, 600 yards or further, and you can ID him, or when it is, a hog over there on a wood line way out there, and you go, hey guys, let's go. Come on, everybody pack up. We're walking closer. And maybe you weren't able to ID that with a standard resolution scope. But generally speaking, at close ranges, I'm going to say, no, you're not going to kill any more with it. And even if we talk about long ranges, gosh, then we've got to start comparing things like the XM50 Thermion that's 5.5 power. I mean, then you've got the 736 FLIR that's 6 power. I mean, you get into these high magnification standard resolution, and there, that's a whole nother can of worms. But I guess I would ask you this at the end of the day, Hans. I mean, we're both using 640 scopes. I mean, we're using everything, but we're using 640s. I mean, that's our standard go-to. So at the end of the day, is it worth it, or is it situational?
Well, going back to what you just said, there are more hogs and coyotes killed with standard resolution scopes than there are 640 resolution scopes.
Because they're sold 4 to 1.
Exactly.
Or maybe higher, yeah.
Exactly. And there are a lot of people out there that are even on social media that are killing a lot of hogs and coyotes with a standard resolution scope. So I'll jump out on that limb with you. Under the terms that you said, in the hunting conditions that you stated, I do not think it's going to help you kill more hogs and coyotes in those normal ranges. I think the only benefit in those farther ranges is being able to ID, and like you said, not having to walk as far. But
I do want to say one thing though. And I know the guys that love 640s like we do are sitting here screaming this at us, and it is true that you will have a better image quality doing it. And
Well,
so, I
yeah,
mean, getting in that, I can use this joke about these pickup trucks, but you do have a different experience in that leathered out, loaded pickup truck. It doesn't mean that's for everybody, but it is a different experience, even though you get to the same place.
that's
And so,
yeah.
you're going to have a better image quality, sharper, crisper, clearer, better ID, more detail, all those things, even at that 50, 100, 200 yards.
The guy that calls up and says, "Hey Hans, man, I most of my hogs I kill at 75 yards.
Yep.
If I get a 384 scope compared to a 640, am I not going to kill as many hogs at that distances?" And the answer is, you will kill just as many hogs at that distance than anybody else. But if you have a 640, it's just going to look better when you're doing it. That's the only difference.
That's right.
It's going to look
Yeah.
better when you're doing it.
No, I agree, and I think we can beat it to death. And some people are going to listen to this and say, "Well, man, y'all gave the worst case ever for 640." I mean, it was, and I don't mean it that way. I just trying to be realistic, and I think if you've got the budget,
Yeah.
if you're that guy who says, you know what, I'm willing to spend $5,000. I'm willing to spend
Yeah.
4,500, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is. I want it. And you're that. This is where I believe it comes down to a personality. All right. And I think there's people who have the personality of, if I'm going to do it, I want to go all in. I want to get the best, and or maybe it's not even the best. Maybe it's just I want to get what's close to the best. Maybe I'm not going to go buy a $9,000 scope, but I'm willing to buy a 5,000. And I think that's perfectly fine. If you are the guy who is probably going to second guess yourself, if you know you're going to get 6 months down the road and go, probably should have bought that 640, then that's, yes, you should buy it now. You that is a personality that you're probably going to regret it later, and yeah, you should go ahead and do it. But if you're like the guy that I talked to today that says, I've never looked through a thermal scope, and I bet he's listening to this because I told him we were going to record this podcast, and I told him, I said, if you've never looked through a thermal scope, which he hadn't, and I said, you're not going to know the difference. And all of these new 320 scopes, these 384s, they're beautiful. The image quality is better than what you see on YouTube. They look great. You're going to be tickled pink. You're not going to be disappointed. And take that same money that you would spend, that other, $1,200, $1,400, and add that with a little more money and get you a handheld scanner.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, I hadn't thought about that. That never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And so anyway, again, it comes
Well,
down to each person and each scenario.
So to wrap a bow on this thing, the question, like the title of the show, is the 640 resolution scope worth it? My answer, and it might be different than yours, my answer is yes, it is worth it if it's within your budget. And that, if it's within your budget, if it's something like you feel like you need to have,
Yes.
and it does fit your finances, the last thing you want to do, and I spoke with a gentleman today, last thing you want to do, like I said, buyer's remorse that you wish you would have bought something else, but also the flip side of that, you don't want to put something or purchase something that's going to put you financially in a bind. The key and the goal is to get out there in the field and start hunting with a thermal. Most of the people that call, this is their first time in the sport of thermal or night vision hunting. They're getting their first thermal for the first time. You want to get what you can get, but getting all that you can get within the budget that you can afford it at. So yes, 640 thermal resolution is worth it as long as it fits in your budget. If you are looking at two different scopes, that it may not be worth it for you. If you're looking at one single brand, but the 640 has a low resolution, and the lower resolution
Magnification.
I'm getting we've
That's
been
all
hitting
right.
this thing
You're right.
hard. So the 640 has a lower resolution. The
Magnification.
Magnification, goodness gracious, and the lower resolution has a higher magnification, and you
That's
need
right.
something that you can shoot longer distances. Then no, it may not be worth the money for you. And there's a lot, and that's why people call up and ask specifically for the Pulsar Trail XQ50 is for that reason. They have the money to buy the XP50, but that's what all of them call, and that's what they want. It's because they know the true meaning of the resolution versus magnification, and that's why they call up in order that one specifically. But short answer, it's yes, and I think you explained everything else perfectly.
I'm going to say this. I think that Hans's answer right there was much better a rap than I could do. I think it was perfect.
Gosh, are you serious?
No, I do. I think it was great.
I confused myself.
He did wrap a bow on it. I think that is perfect. And this is my advice, and I'm going to close with this, is that if you're not sure, or if you get confused watching the videos or reading the forums or the groups or whatever, my advice is, this is selfish, is to call myself or Hans here at Outdoor Legacy. But hang on, I'm going to be fair here.
Man.
Call us at 877-350-1818, and one of us will walk you through this. And we have looked and hunted with every single one of those scopes. And if you don't call us, call another mom and pop dealer, a small time dealer. I say small time. I just mean not a big box store that doesn't know anything about it. You're going to talk to somebody that's never touched a thermal scope. That doesn't do you any good. Call a dealer that you know is out hunting with these things. All of them. Not just one of them, not just the latest one, not just one of the Thermions, but all of them, all of the FLIRs, all this stuff.
Can I interject real quick? I know you're on a roll. But I want to interject because that's key.
Okay.
Because, one of the biggest, I guess, praises that we get is I trust your opinion. I trust y'all's opinion because I know that you're out using this stuff every day. There's a lot of people that you talk to that are in the business, but they're not really in the business, if you know what I mean. Jason and I, and there's a lot of others out there, a lot of dealers that are out using this stuff every night, but we are using and testing this stuff every day. Jason built a dang contraption to hold two thermals side by side so he could get the
three,
best.
Actually, but
three. And he's got scopes that are running in his house, just sitting there running on a timer to see how long the batteries last. I mean, Jason, more than anybody that I know personally, is out there putting in the work to make sure that we have the honest answers for you, and we're not just kind of pulling stuff out of the sky and give you an answer that you want to hear. So I think one of the praises, Jason, that we get is we're using it. I trust you, and you're terrible salespeople, so I know you're going to tell me the truth of what I need.
That's right. We just talked you out of 640, so yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, and so again, I don't want y'all to think we're just sitting here tooting our own horns, because I know by name. I have some friends in this business who they're out hunting as much as we are. These guys use all the scopes. There are other people, but if you're not going to go to us, then I would say at least seek those guys out. And don't go to some guy because he says he'll give you $25 off and a gift card to Starbucks. I mean, find somebody. This is a big purchase. Find somebody that knows about it, not somebody who's just reading the manual, or the spec sheet. So anyway, that's my take on it. Call before you buy. Call someone who knows. Don't just take the word of the average guy on Facebook who's owned one thermal scope and his is the best. You need to talk to somebody who's looked at all of them, and they can give you the advice. You don't have to buy it that day on the phone. You don't have to take the advice, but I think you ought to get it. And at least then process it and make your own decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if you get on a thermal and you ask what is the best thermal scope, that's like getting on a forum and asking what's the best rifle. It is just it goes into chaos.
What's the best caliber?
Yeah, the internet breaks pretty much.
Man.
But hey, outdoorlegacygear.com. Go check us out. You can call Jason at 877-350-1818. You can find Outdoor Legacy Gear on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever social else there is out there. You can find me. You can on Instagram at Hans ETX. Also on YouTube, HANS ETX. I just put out my Pulsar Thermion XM38 full review, and I've gotten good response from that, and I look forward to testing more of them. A lot of people have been asking about us doing and doing a review on the XM50, Jason. So there's some more stuff and information that we need to put out there on some of those Thermion models coming in. Can't wait to get our hands on the XP50 Thermion. That's coming up as well. But thank y'all for joining us. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Our channel's growing like crazy. Please give us a call if you have any questions. We enjoy putting this show together. We had a guy today that said, I love hearing Jason. I love him ramble on. And I told him Jason can talk the horns off a billy goat, and I've got to keep him under a tight wrap sometimes because we get on a time crunch. But he loves to hear Jason. He loves him some Jason. He wants to hear more Jason. So
he must be bored.
yeah, so we're just gonna have to ship him over to your house because I think your wife might want to let him substitute in for a little bit. So hear some of those stories. But thank y'all for joining us. Y'all stay safe in the field. Keep making them making pancakes. Join us next week for episode 64. It's going to be great. We don't have it completely planned right now, but trust me, it's going to be awesome. Y'all take care.